What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Coffeez for Closers. Today, we're sitting down with one of the most brilliant minds in all of marketing. She's a catalyst to the success of United Wholesale Mortgage becoming a household brand. She was named Housing Wire's Woman of the Year and Inman News Woman of Vision. She's one of the most brilliant people you will ever speak to and a true inspiration to millions around the world. Please welcome the Chief Marketing Officer of United Wholesale Mortgage, Mrs. Sarah DeCiantis. Thank you, Sarah.
You bet. Thank you.
All right. I'm incredibly blessed and honored to be sitting down with you today. Obviously, I've been following you for years and years now. You're just such a tremendous and influential figure in the mortgage space, and really someone who's really been able to push the mortgage marketing front to a whole new sphere. And you know, your work has inspired thousands of people. So thank you for this opportunity to sit with you. Thank you for this opportunity to learn from you. Now, whenever I sit with someone who I feel blessed to be around and someone who's inspired me to get better, to learn, to push my own marketing vision to another level, I like to ask them, questions that help everybody, progress. So the first question that I think helps everybody is how someone starts their day. So what's your morning routine? How do you start your day every single day?
So I usually get up around 5:30, and I have two little kids. So I get myself ready first, and then I check my email. I always open my phone, check my email, make sure there's nothing that blew up between midnight and 5:30 a.m. And then I get ready, and then I get my two kids ready. So I have two little boys. They're going to be 11 and 8 in June. And oftentimes I have the privilege and the opportunity to take them to the bus because their bus actually leaves quite early in the morning. So I get them ready, get their breakfast, get them started off to a great day, make sure they have their snacks in their backpack and their water bottles are full and all those good things. And then get them off the bus, and then I come into work. Nice.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like my schedule. I just fit in some stretching and some
I need to do more of that.
Yeah. A little bit, maybe possibly a workout. So I noticed something you said, though. You said midnight and 5:30. So that's it? That's all the sleep you get?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the day. I try to be asleep by 11, but that doesn't always work out.
Now, you've been with United Wholesale Mortgage for the last 10 years, correct?
Yeah, correct.
And then what did you do when you started at UWM?
So I was VP of marketing when I started. So I've always been in marketing. I was the VP for about 3 years, and then been the CMO for the last 7.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how'd you get started in marketing?
I went to school for it. I went to school for marketing and advertising, and my kind of dream or the vision was that I was going to work in an ad agency. Like that was the pinnacle, right? If you were in marketing and advertising, that's what you're going to school for. That's where you wanted to be, right? That was the cool brands were there and all the fun stuff. And I did that for about 10 years. And I kind of did my, agency tour in the Detroit metro market. I learned a ton. I got to work on some very well-known, prominent brands, fun brands. But it was a lot of hours. And so I ended up making a switch from ad agency to sports entertainment, thinking that was going to give me a little bit more structure. Like, concerts don't pop up, NBA games don't pop up. You can plan and schedule for that. But I was on the side of the business that was partnerships. And so I was at the games, I was at the concerts, I was doing all these things. So a lot of times, it would be, 4, sometimes 5 nights a week. I wasn't getting home until 11 o'clock. And so when I had my first son, I realized if I wanted to be a working mom, which I knew I wanted to be, it was not going to work for me to be at work until 11 o'clock consistently, 5 days a week and miss all of the things, miss the games, miss the, the crawling and the walking and all the things I was going to end up missing anyway. But did I want to be home for dinner by 6 o'clock, 6:30, or was I going to miss all of that too? So I really wanted to stay in marketing, and I started looking for a job in marketing that would just simply have work-life balance. That was really my sole focus. And I was introduced to UWM, and I was introduced to Matt Ishbia and sat down with him. And it was an inspiring interview when I sat with him. One, it was he just kind of opened the floor to say, what do you want to do? What do you think you can do? And at that time, UWM was known, but not like we are now.
Yeah.
We were maybe ranked in like the top 10 at that point in time. We still kind of had a identity crisis a little bit. And so there was a lot of opportunity to kind of create a brand that was as modern as we are internally and showcase that externally, because we were doing all the same things from a partnership standpoint and client experience standpoint, and focus on our clients, and all those things were already happening. We weren't doing a great job of shouting that from the rooftop externally. So thought I would help them do that for a couple of years, and then would be on to whatever the next thing would be, and fell in love with it here.
Love it. Well, something caught my attention here. It's like you started in a marketing agents, marketing for something more fun, like in the sports space, and then you went to mortgage.
Yeah.
Like, what was that transition like to go from sports to mortgage?
Oh, trust me. I thought many times, are you crazy? Are you crazy? You're leaving sports and entertainment to go into the mortgage business. But honestly, I never thought that this would be a space that I would enjoy, and feel as much fulfillment as I did working on, Progressive Insurance or Six Flags, amusement parks, or, Cadillac, or like all these like big, well-known brand names that, you say and everyone knows who they are, right? But there's a different opportunity that exists in the marketing space or the marketing opportunity that we have. We really, from a UWM standpoint, I'm fortunate enough that although we're one company, there's actually 4 brands that we have and that we manage that really has their own identity and their own tone. And so, we have UWM, which is obviously our main client facing brand. And then we have UWM Careers, which is all of our, we are hyper local from a recruiting standpoint. Everyone comes to campus every day. So if you live more than an hour away from here, you probably aren't going to work here. So we're hyper local with that. And we have, some sports sponsorships that we have as part of that branding and that partnership. And then we have Mortgage Matchup, which is our B2C brand. And how do we educate consumers and real estate agents that a broker is the best place to go? And then we have Be a Mortgage Broker. How do we get more, or how do we get more clients into the space? And how do we get people to switch over from retail to wholesale and understand the value there? So while it is one company, there's actually a lot of different hats that not only myself but my team get to put on and off, which makes it exciting too, because it's not just all the B2B side. We have B2C, kind of 2 brands are B2B and 2 brands are B2C.
One thing I want to ask you, and I think a lot of people who are listening that are marketing things that are proclaimed boring, is like, how do you make something boring fun? Yeah. What are some of the strategies that you implement?
I think that it's really tapping into, like with anything, is at the end of the day, what is the end value or the end benefit that's going to get that client, consumer, whoever it is, excited or get them to pay attention, right? Because, mortgages aren't necessarily exciting, but to our direct clients, our mortgage brokers, they need to know the information that we have. We just have to position it in a way that catches their attention. From a consumer standpoint, they don't know a lot, right? And so a lot of our focus in the B2C space is making something that seems intimidating, that seems unattainable, easier and more friendly. So when we did the rebrand earlier this year from FindAMorgageBroker.com to Mortgage Matchup, that was really the focus, is who is that next generation of home buyers that we can really tap into with this rebrand that's going to make it seem friendly, humanize it, not make it seem so intimidating or scary or unattainable. And so really at the end of the day, no matter what it is that you're marketing, or no matter what brand you're really focused on, how do you grab the attention of your end consumer? And that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it challenging sometimes.
Yeah, because Be a Mortgage Broker just sounds boring, right?
Right,
It's like, but Mortgage Matchup sounds more fun. Exactly. So how do you get that inspiration to like make it more fun? Like, because and then when did you realize you needed to make that shift with Find a Mortgage Broker? Well,
FindAMorgageBroker.com, I'll tell you a little story about that one. It was stood up over about a 3-day period, roughly 8 years ago. It was the very first time that Matt was going on national TV. He was going on CNBC, and he called and he said, where am I directing people? What am I telling them? Because no one cares who UWM is. And if a consumer who's watching CNBC goes to UWM.com, we don't have anything for them because that's our broker site. And we were like, oh, great. great question. So we stood up this site over a weekend, essentially, and called it FindAMorgageBroker.com. It was the URL that was available. Didn't think it was going to be something that, stuck for as long as it did, but it did. And then it's just really about figuring out what's the right time to make that switch. And sometimes things take priority and things take precedence. So we'd known for, quite a few years that FindAMorgageBroker.com was not exactly the most appealing B2C brand name. I mean, first of all, most people don't know what a mortgage broker is. And so that was a hurdle in and of itself. The name was clunky. It was long. It was,
And
all
still
the
had
things.
the stigma at the time, too.
Yes, exactly. So making the switch was something we knew we wanted to do. And so we did a lot of research. We interviewed a lot of consumers at a lot of different stages in life, people who have purchased a home before, people who have not, are they, what are they looking for? What was, for those that bought a home previously, what was intimidating about the process? What didn't they like about the process? How could we make it more friendly? And then we showed them a variety of different brand names, a variety of different, iconography and colors and all the things that goes into researching a new brand to make sure you can make it as impactful as possible, and that ultimately is how we landed on Mortgage Matchup.
I love that. Now, you come up with so many cool ideas for UWM. I mean, a lot of the inspiration that UWM has and a lot of the vision and everything that the mortgage broker sees, and a lot of the front end social media imagery is all derived from your vision. What do you think invokes that vision?
Just to be human. I mean, I will often tell the team we just need to humanize things. We just need to make it feel like people are having a one-to-one conversation with the content that we're putting out there. Like, at the end of the day, that is really what you're trying to do in so many different spaces, is really have that one-to-one connection, that one-to-one conversation. And how do you really take something that sometimes is complicated, right? Like, I mean, this, like the mortgage business can be complicated. Even some of the products that we roll out, it's like, how do we find that one hook or that one positioning statement that makes somebody look at a story on Instagram and go, I get it. I know what this is, even if maybe it's a little bit more complicated on the back end. But I think it's really keeping in the forefront, the human factor and just the conversational factor. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Don't make it too challenging. Don't try to squeeze every single thing you want to say into, this tiny little space. Like, what's the hook? What is the end consumer, whoever they are, what do they care about and what do they need to know? And that a lot of times is what drives what we put out there.
I noticed one thing when I'm walking through here, Sarah. It's like, you're such a grinder. You're running around. You work so hard, and you got 2 kids, household to manage. You're doing so much. Like being the CMO of this massive company. Where do you think all that passion, that drive comes from for you?
I love what I do. I love everything. I love being a mom. I love, my husband is wonderful and helps to support so much of what I do. And if I didn't have that relationship, it would be a lot harder to do what I do. But, I have a great relationship, a great marriage. I have a great relationship with my kids, and I love what I do at work. And I have great relationships with people I work with, not just from an executive level standpoint. Like, yes, we all have great relationships. We all get along very well. We're, for the most part, really like-minded, which makes things gel very well from a vision standpoint, and how we execute. But I have a great team. I mean, I really there's not a lot of people, I think, that are fortunate enough to have a team like we have. Like, we're not that big. I mean, we have about 55 people on the marketing team, for a company of, over 7,000 and serving, 40,000 brokers every day and all these consumers every day. Like, we're not a huge team, but we are all very focused on what needs to get done, and we all grind. It's not just me. I might maybe set the tone, but ultimately, I think we all just enjoy what we do, and we all love working together and focus on the things, and we all just we do it together. Like, it's not. We're in the weeds together. We focus on things together. And I also am fortunate enough that my leadership team has all been with me for quite a long time. And even team members that are part of the team today, like, some of them have been here longer than I have. And we're fortunate that we just all gel really well together, and we all can focus on the same things. And it's not, I think, often that you have an opportunity to work with a team of people that are all really rowing in the same direction, really understand the overarching vision. Oftentimes, that you get some kind of, maybe there's negative pots or little like spaces on the team, and frankly, we really don't have that. It really makes everyone stay focused on what it is we have to do. And as you know from walking around here, like, we have a very, very, very positive culture. And that is, I think, what drives a lot of how we're able to achieve as much as we're able to achieve as quickly as we achieve it. Because, as you know, we move very, very fast.
Yeah.
And if you're not all in it together, it's hard. And if I'm not doing what I do, and if I'm not grinding like I grind, then I can't really expect that of the team. And so when, you set the tone as a leader that this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it, and we're going to get it done together, and it's going to be great. And it might not be perfect, but it's going to be great. And you just do it together, it makes things work a lot better.
You hit a lot of things that I want to ask you about in that. The first thing is, like, do you have a mentor, or how have you become the way you are?
Gosh,
do you have people that mentored you? Do you have people that you really look to be like? Like, how did you become this way?
There are so many people that have influenced where I have gotten at this point. I mean, a lot of them, from here. I mean, Matt is a huge mentor. Melinda, I know you've interviewed, a huge mentor. Desmond, like, there's so many people that just, even that I am fortunate enough to interact with on a daily basis, that I look to and admire. And we all have kind of different approaches or different ways of looking at things, or, just our different lanes of expertise. And, so a lot of it, I'm very fortunate enough to get to, interact with and spend time with and learn from my mentors on a daily basis. But I also, have friends that aren't even in this space at all that I look to and admire, that, maybe they're, a stay-at-home mom, and the things that they're able to do and accomplish and achieve, like, inspire me. I have friends that, have gotten to places in their careers that I really, really admire. I have, family members, my parents, like, siblings, like, there's just so many people. I really like to draw from a lot of different individuals, because I don't think that there's any one perfect or right way to do anything. And the more I think you can draw from different experiences and different opportunities, and kind of just make it your own, and how you want to take what you really like about somebody, and you're never going to replicate it 100%, but how you just take those bits and pieces and kind of weave it into what you do. I really can't say that there's just one person that just, was the pivotal factor. It's really a combination of a lot of different people.
Culmination of several people. Yeah, I love that. You learn from everybody.
You do. Yeah.
And I want to also talk about the culture, because it's such an incredible culture here. Just like you said earlier, it's like 7,500 smiling faces. Yeah. And I get lost. I'm like walking out of the bathroom and get out of the other door, and I'm like, where am I? It's like the people are like, oh, just turn around here, and like, yep. They're just like, these are the nicest people on the planet.
Yeah, good.
How do you create such a great culture? And I know you're a pivotal part of that, because you have to relay that message of culture.
Yeah. I mean, I think it, like anything, it starts at the top, right? I mean, and it doesn't, I'm not just necessarily talking about myself, but, Matt's dad. Like, Matt's dad still walks around here. He's here in our Monday morning meetings, and he's just as kind and as genuine, and as caring as, what you see here. And so I think when the tone gets set, you have to keep repeating the tone every single day, right? You have to reinforce it. You have to keep people focused on the positive. You have to keep people focused on, we hold doors for people. When you see a client or anybody, you see somebody that's lost, or maybe there's a new team member, like, ask them, are you lost? Can I help you? Like, is there anything I can do? Like, buy somebody coffee at Starbucks if they're waiting in line behind you. Like, just the little things that help solidify the culture that we have, I believe comes more naturally to majority of us than it does feel like, oh God, I got to do this. It's just who we are. It's just who we are as people outside of UWM, but also who we are inside of UWM. And a lot of, the things that even I've learned here, I use in my personal life. Like, even with my kids, like, the easiest thing for them to kind of wrap their heads around a lot of times is, obviously being positive, but also like taking accountability. Like, they're going to be 11 and 8. They're getting to an age now where, you can't just, nothing in life is ever somebody else's fault, right? Like, you have ultimate control. And so our whole saying of, be a thumb pointer, not a finger pointer, I use that all the time. I use that all the time. And I use it even in my own head. Like, sometimes when I'm like, oh, something happened or whatever, and it's like my first reaction 10 years ago wouldn't have been, what could I have done differently to change that outcome? It would have been, so and so did this and so did that, and that's how we got here, right? But 10 years later, your whole mindset shifts, and there's this different focus, and there's a different collaborative focus, because things are going to go wrong. It will happen. And if you can keep focused on, like, sure, there's always going to be 2 or 4 or maybe 10 things that impacted the end result. But there's also 2 or 4 or 10 things to learn from that can change the result for the next time. And when you can be focused on, okay, let's fix it and solve it, and then we'll regroup and figure out how it doesn't happen again, versus the finger pointing, it just kind of changes the way that you focus on things. And I think that's a big part of our culture too. Like, we don't walk around saying things were somebody else's fault. What could you have done to change the outcome of that? And chances are 99.99% of the time, there was something that was in your control that you could have done differently. Maybe it was just a small communication piece. Maybe it was just a small conversation or a follow-up, or who knows what it was. But there's always something that was in your control that could have changed the outcome too.
That actually leads me in my next question, because everything you just said ties into this question. It's how are you guys continuing to foster such great talent?
We do a lot of training. A lot of training happens around here, and not just mortgage training. We have leadership development trainers. We have people. I mean, we all as even executive leaders, like Matt included, we all meet with leadership coaches. We all go to trainings every, sometimes it's every month, sometimes it's every quarter, like depending on what the cadence is. But we learn and we grow and we get better, and we focus on it. I mean, if you just say this is what our culture is going to be, but nobody ever focuses on it, or nobody ever emulates it, no one ever shows you what we expect, it's not going to go anywhere. But when you have all of these leaders that are rowing in the same direction, those team members are going to row in the same direction, and then their team members are going to row in the same direction, and you just create this environment that it's all one team, and really we're going to figure out how to get to the best solution as one team.
Nice. I love that. Now, one thing that is on a lot of people's minds is artificial intelligence lately, and how do you think AI is going to impact marketing, especially at UWM, in the next couple of years?
So it will be interesting to see. I mean, we're already using some elements of AI from, a digital marketing standpoint. I think that, a lot of people believe that AI from a marketing standpoint is going to take over everything from a creativity space, right? It's going to take over, photos, and it's going to take over writing, and it's going to take over all these things. I don't believe that's going to happen. I really don't. I think that, maybe in a future generation, 100 years from now, AI gets smart enough to be able to do some of those things, but you can't take the human element out of something that, like I was saying earlier, that you're trying to humanize, right? Like, if you take the human element out of everything, it's just going to be robotic. It will sound robotic. It will be robotic. So I think from a creative space standpoint, it'll be interesting to see how we're able to leverage some, tools from, maybe video production, or how we're able to audio production, like those kind of things. I think really where AI is going to influence a lot of what we do is allowing us to be smarter from, digital placements, allowing us to be smarter from really anything on learning more about the people that are coming to our websites, like, and how do we customize that experience even further, and how do we drive that human, that personalized experience further. I think that's where we're going to see the greatest influence, hopefully from a UWM standpoint too, because I think that it's critically important for us to understand who we're talking to and what they do. What are is it somebody who is very heavy on VA loans? Well, let's make sure that when they land on our website, like, we're serving up all that content about VA as we possibly can to help educate them and train them and let them know what we do, and versus it being more from a creative space standpoint.
So extremely enhanced analytics.
Yeah.
On your demographic.
Absolutely.
I love that. So what are some other marketing trends that you're seeing right now in the mortgage space, like, that you can share with people listening?
I mean, I think AI is really the biggest thing. I think that is really, everyone has their eyes on AI because it's the newest thing. I actually, it was very funny. I saw this thing pop up on Instagram, and it was a news broadcast from 1994. And they had this whole segment on the internet. And they had this whole segment on how are you supposed to say the @ symbol? Because they didn't know, right? It was like, Channel 7 News, is it around? Is it at? How do you say it, right? Because it was so new, and it was this new development of, that people hadn't heard of before. They didn't know how to use it. They didn't know what it was going to mean. They didn't know how it was going to impact our daily lives. Granted, that was, a long time ago, but I think it is us sitting here talking about AI now. In 30 years from now, it's going to be like people in 1994 talking about how do you say the @ sign, right? Because it's so new right now, but it's going to have such a massive impact. It isn't going to be a trend. It's just going to be this ever evolving thing that is going to allow us to be smarter and faster and be able to serve our end consumer the best way possible.
Yeah, it's funny that we're on, like, our company is on probably 6 or 7 different AI platforms.
Yeah.
It's like, and we're paying for this AI platform that does this, and then this AI platform does that.
Yeah.
And there's so many different derivatives of AI.
Yeah. And then what's going to stick?
Yeah.
What's going to be ultimately the thing in 10 years from now, or maybe it's 5 years from now? What's going to be ultimately, like, something comes together, this culmination of, okay, these are all the best pieces of AI, and someone's going to figure it out.
Yeah, one AI platform will just do everything. Why am I paying for 9?
Exactly. Yep.
So right now, like, a lot of people want to enter the marketing space. Is there any specific skill or a mindset that one has to have to really win in this sort of environment right now?
I think marketing, I think, is one of the main spaces. IT is another, but where you can never relax on what you think because it's always going to change. There is always going to be something new that comes out, a better technology, a better, social media platform. There's always going to be something new. So if you're somebody that likes to be comfortable and kind of do more repetitive things on a daily basis, marketing isn't really for you, nor is the mortgage industry, frankly. But there is a lot goes into how do you keep that mindset of ever evolving, of ever never thinking that this is it, never thinking I got it figured out, because as soon as you think you've got it figured out, it's going to change. And we don't know what the next change will be. And so reading blogs, staying up on the latest trends, staying up on, not necessarily always jumping ship to what the next thing is, but paying attention and knowing how that is impacting, your clients, knowing how they're utilizing it. How can we be utilizing it? I mean, we didn't even, from a UWM standpoint, we didn't even jump on TikTok for a while, because it was like, how exactly can we most effectively utilize this new social media platform versus just being on it to say we're on it.
And you're on it for UWM Life.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
That
is one of our best recruiting tools.
By the way, that's your highest performing social media.
Yeah.
That's the highest performing with the most engagement.
Yep, exactly. And it took us a little while to jump on, because it's like, how do we best utilize it? How do we best, not just have one more social platform that we're creating content for and engaging with, but how do we make sure that that's where the time is best spent, because as you know, it takes a long time to create content. It looks easy when you see something that's 20 seconds long.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, oh, that was easy. That only took 20 seconds.
Done that in
right, exactly.
10 seconds.
Yeah. And really, there's all this footage that you took and all this time that you spent and
all these
script
editors.
writing, all these editors and, audio. And I mean, there's just so many pieces that go into it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely just constantly having kind of your brain on a swivel, because it's just ever evolving, and it will continue to. I mean, marketing, I don't think is ever going to be a space where you're just going to have these, experts, right?
Yeah.
You can be really, really good, but to say you're an expert in marketing, that's so broad. That's such a broad statement to make. And I think you just have to be an expert learner.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with that said, because you built out this massive marketing company. I think when you started, you were the VP. How many people were there when you started?
Two.
So you're the VP of 2 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just awesome. We got.
Yep, exactly.
And what do you think some of the biggest challenges you faced when you set up marketing for UWM?
I think one of the biggest challenges, in all honesty, was demonstrating the value that marketing can bring to an organization. When you have a company that was really built from the ground up with really very little marketing, there was definitely sales support, and there was, ads being placed in Scotsman's Guide and things like that. Trade shows were being attended and things like that. But really demonstrating the impact that marketing can really, really have at a broad scale, and how that can really help drive and catapult business. That's easy when you go to an ad agency because everyone understands it. When you come to a company that doesn't really have depth from a marketing standpoint, or maybe even depth in understanding what marketing can do, that was probably one of the biggest challenges. And, it was a challenge I was really happy to take on, and really happy to sit here today and say 10 years later, they get it and we get it. And we, spend a lot on marketing, and we have a lot of focus on marketing, and marketing is very, very much so a valued piece of the overall puzzle of how, UWM, goes to market and communicates things and partners with sales and partners with IT and does all these things. That wasn't really the case 10 years ago.
We were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like, Sarah, I need you to tutor these people on explaining this.
Yeah.
This is it's complicated for people who don't know marketing, or not in the trenches with marketing.
Yeah.
And now marketing has evolved so much because there's so many different platforms, and there's so many different, ways to market. And honestly, marketing now, it's like some of the stuff that, you see me do, I look like I'm crazy.
It's okay. You got to have a little crazy in you to be in marketing to begin with.
Yeah. So it's like, and then explaining it to analytical people in mortgage, it's
right.
What?
Exactly.
No, show me the numbers.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
don't show me pictures.
Show me how this is more money, more fundings. That's not how it works.
Yep.
Now, a couple last questions I have, and one of them is about your family. You got 2 kids, and I know they're grounded. How, and they're fortunate enough to be, well-to-do. How are you keeping your kids so grounded to sustain that same level of grit that you have?
I think some of it, just like a lot of things with kids, they see what you do and they replicate what you do. I mean, I honestly was leaving. My kids don't have school today. And I was leaving this morning, and my older one was awake, and he said, "Mom, why do you have to go? Why do you have to leave? Can't you just stay home with us today?" And I said, "No, I got to go to work." And he said, "Well, you don't have to." And I said, "Well, I suppose you're right. I made the choice to be a working mom, and because I made that commitment to my team, I have to go to work today." And he was like, "Oh, okay." So, I think just demonstrating for them, not only I personally think it's good I have 2 boys. I think it's good for them to see that both mom and dad work. But we also make time for them. And we also, there's definitely carve out times, like the weekends we call family days. That is, with few exceptions, my husband and I both, we spend time with the kids. That's what we do, whether it's going to their sports, or we go, to the zoo, we go to a baseball game, or whatever it is that they want to do. We throw the football in the yard, whatever it is, we spend time with them. And I think that, the other piece of it too is, I started to, or we both, my husband and I started to, they have these like little debit cards. They're like kid debit cards, and they get money every week for doing chores around the house. And then when they all of a sudden want whatever, a new Squishmallow, a new pair of Jordans, like whatever it is, a lot of times the first question is, well, what do you have in your account? How much do you have in your account? Is that how you want to spend your money? And you know, my younger one, he's got a lot of money in his account. My older one, not so much, because he wants to buy the, you know, Yeezy slides, and he wants to buy all these other things. Like, okay, but you're going to spend your money doing that. Like, we obviously get you the things you need, and of course you get some things that you want, but like you want to go outside of, you know, kind of the needs and the wants, and you just want it because you want it and there's not really a reason, then you need to look and see what you have in your account. And so that, I think, is hopefully, jury's still out, but hopefully teaching them a little bit of financial discipline, that just because mom and dad have money doesn't mean you have money. And you need to earn the money, and you need to do the things around right now. I mean, they're young still, but they do the things around the house to contribute. Like, you know, we don't have a house manager. Like, things don't get done for them. Like, they do their laundry, they put away the laundry, they make their beds, they do the dishes, they bring in the garbage cans.
Awesome.
Like, they do the things around the house. Because I think it's very easy as working parents to feel guilty, and so to fulfill or to plug that guilt, a lot of times you buy them stuff, right? And it's like, oh, sure, you want that, sure, yeah, you know, whatever. So, and not that I'm not guilty of buying my kids stuff. Of course, we go to Target and all of a sudden there's 4 things in the basket that I know I didn't put in there, and you're at the register and you're like, oh, okay, I guess so, right?
But you're not buying Yeezys. But
we're not buying Yeezys, right? He bought them himself. He can buy them himself. But you know, I think they think it's a. I don't know that many parents can, you know, fully judge the job that they've done with their kids until, you know, they're 30, because who knows what has happened. But you know, I think that just teaching them the basics, and teaching them how to, you know, just know the value of something, know the value of not only like just, you know, time with your family, but also the value of money and the value of friendships. And then when they see us doing all these things, and not doing our best to not just hand them everything. Hopefully, at the end of the day, you know, that teaches them a little bit of discipline and keeps them, you know, a little grounded.
Yeah, and that's something, you know, I'm always asking other parents, especially successful parents, who we don't want to give our kids everything because we grew up different.
Yep.
You know, we didn't grow up like in the same abundance.
Exactly.
And I want to make sure that they're grinding, they have the same work ethic. I came from a third world country, and my kids aren't as fortunate to experience that,
right.
You know, and in one sense they're fortunate to be here in the U.S. and have more abundance, but how do we make sure that they grind?
Exactly.
Things aren't going to come easy.
Absolutely. But when they see us doing it, you're halfway there, right?
Yeah.
You know, if we didn't do it, it's hard to tell them to do it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So how much do you give them for allowance? Just asking. Like
$10 a week.
$10 a week, and
they
have
$10 a week.
They got to take out the trash, do the bed every day.
Yep. Empty the dishwasher if the dishwasher needs to be emptied.
Oh, that's my job. See,
yeah.
I gotta delegate that.
Yeah, it actually takes a lot off of my plate, so I don't have to do it. But no, I mean, they, you know, and not that they do it every single day. You know, there's definitely days, and it's like, okay, well, you only got $8 this week, or instead of your 10, or
it's $2 deduction. You missed the trash.
$2 deduction. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I think there's a lot of you know, things you try as a parent, and you know, I think that's what is something, you know, cool about, you know, eventually someday, maybe, hopefully being a grandparent, is like all the things that you're like, oh, I wish I would have done that differently. Maybe you can do a little differently with your grandkids, but you know, they don't give you a trial run on being a parent, right? You just got to figure out as you go, and you do the best you can. Everyone does the best they can, right? Like, and the way we do it might not be the way that somebody else does, or the right way for somebody else, but you do your best. And I think at the end of the day, as long as, you know, you're propping your kids up and you know, recognizing them for the things that they do well, and they feel loved and appreciated, and you know, they feel like, you know, you as a parent, you know, you've got their back. I think those are some pretty good things for kids to feel.
That's awesome. And I could tell you're raising your kids right.
Well, again, jury's still out. Not till they're 30 can we judge, but
yeah,
we're trying.
You're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
You know, you got all the barometers in place, all the metrics in place. It's like
fingers crossed.
Now, this question, I know UWM also emphasizes this a lot, but this is a three-pronged question, so I don't know if they hit all these metrics, but what is a personal goal that you have for yourself, a family goal that you have for the family, and then a business goal that you have for the whole entire marketing department?
So that's interesting, because I've never been asked the separation of the personal and family, so I feel like I have to rethink that. But a lot of my personal goals kind of really fold into my family. Is we take vacations. Like that is something that my husband and I both value a lot with the kids. And we carve out time to take them on trips. It's one of the best memories I have from being a kid. Now, granted, as growing up, like we went on one vacation a year. Like that was it. We had our one vacation a year. And it's some of the best memories that I have of my childhood, and wanting to replicate with them. And also too, it's, I have a slight, a strategy tied to that as well, is that, if at some point the kids are going to get older, and they might not want to go on vacation with mom and dad. But when they realize how much vacations cost, guess what? They might still want to go on vacation with mom and dad. So I feel like if I instill this traveling bug in them that both my husband and I have, that, we'll get to hang on to a few more family trips. So traveling is definitely, something that we set goal every year. I mean, we really try to go on 3 to 4 family trips a year. They're not week-long trips all the time. Might just be a long weekend somewhere. But really try to get that family time with them. And then from a professional standpoint, we just redid one portion of UWM.com that is a really, I believe, can be a true sales driver because of the elements that we focused on in the dashboard, the pro rankings, and being able to have insight into, your control your price, and all these elements that really help to drive and grow our clients' business. And it's the very first entry point into our website. And so one of my big goals for this year is making sure that area of the website is working as hard as it can to take a little bit of the lift off of not only the clients having to remember what are the things that I should be doing to help grow and support my business, but also supporting the sales team. We work really, really closely with the sales team, as we do a lot of teams, but we're pretty tight at the hip with the sales team. And figuring out ways to, take things off their plate, because they have so many things to think about and talk about and do all the time too. How can we support? And with the dashboard launching in January earlier this year, it really is a focus to make that space work as hard as it possibly can for our clients, but also for our sales team.
So the adoption of that new dashboard, yeah, and that dashboard there's a lot to it.
Yes, there is.
There's a lot, I don't.
But you remember what it looked like before?
Yeah.
It was like a junk drawer. You couldn't find anything. You didn't know where anything was. Like now, it's sectioned out and focusing on in the things that make sense to have in sections. But also when you first get there too, like focus on like the business piece of it. And it used to be focused on the marketing piece of it, if you remember.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. The adoption is very, very important of that page.
Yep.
So I think more trainings on that would be important.
Yeah. All right, you got it.
Yeah, so especially for us.
Yeah. We'll do a dedicated training for you guys.
We need more dedicated trainings. We used to have those, but then Jessica's like, well, you're not allowed to record them. And then it's like, then you can't do it on your Zoom room. And like,
we'll put them in Academy so you guys have them.
Yeah, put them in Academy.
Yeah.
But adoption on Academy has also been tough because people don't want to voluntarily learn. They don't want to do it.
Well, it depends on the expectation that gets set, right? We have a lot of clients that are asking for more video content to be put on there because they have forced all of their LOs to go through all 168 videos that we have out there. So now they're asking for more content because their team's gone through everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You could do that when someone, like we run an independent platform, and I could tell them to do that.
Yeah.
But
then they got to go do it.
But them doing it is going to be very unlikely because they're independent.
Yep.
But if they're on my payroll and I force them, it's easy.
Yep, exactly.
And like you got to sit through this before you know your next check.
Right, exactly. Prove we did it.
Yeah. So my last question, and it could be a very long question, it could be a very short question, depending on how you interpret it, is when you get in front of the pearly gates. Yeah. What do you think God's going to tell you?
Well, I hope he says good job. But gosh, that's a really great question. I think he's probably going to say, great job doing the best job that you could do, or at least I hope that's what gets said. But I don't know. I've never really thought about that far in advance, or at least hopefully it's far in advance. I just try to live each day the best. And sometimes aren't the best days. Sometimes I know I could have done better. Sometimes at the end of the day, I'm like, today was a great day. Like I did all the things I needed to get done, at work. I did the things with the kids. We maybe stayed up a little bit later, watched a movie, ate popcorn, whatever it might be. But I think that, it's thinking about a whole life culmination. I'm not sure what gets said. I just hopefully each day I can have the ability to continue to maximize the opportunities and embrace the opportunities that are presented, because each day presents new opportunities and new challenges.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for coming on Coffeez for Closers.
Absolutely.
You've been an awesome guest. You're such an incredible human being, an inspiration to everyone in the mortgage space, especially an inspiration to all women who are wanting to enter the mortgage space or who are currently in the mortgage space. God bless you. God bless your family. I hope you accomplish all your goals this year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.